let's get to Carpe Donktum, because everybody who's on Twitter knows Carpe Donktum. I believe his description was the meme master, getting for a Trump meme master. He's a right-wing I feel crazy even having this discussion. He is a right-wing meme master on Twitter. Makes the videos that you've all seen probably. He was issued a permanent suspension, which I love the Orwellian description of, banned from Twitter because of the toddler meme, which allegedly violated copyright of the copyright holder, and because he had too many copyright violations on Twitter, exercising their duty to ensure compliance, banned him, presumably to remain in compliance with DMCA provisions. Now, so this is where the discussion is. Like, I don't know the details of what notices were sent to Carpe Donktum, if it was a bona fide DMCA takedown notice, if it was a complaint. But for those who are wondering, in general terms, when there's a DMCA takedown notice on copyrighted material, there's a procedure by which the recipient can file a counter notice. There's a delay within which the issuer of the notice can respond. This is all above and beyond the terms of service of the platform. But could you elaborate on that? And before you do that, actually just satisfy everybody that you know what you're talking about and give your credentials on the subject.
Sure. So the copyright law is an extension of intellectual property law, and it's mostly statutory in the United States. First one was in the early 1900s. They amended it with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act in 2000, and that's where the DMCA acronym comes from. The point and purpose behind copyright law, and the reason why I've litigated a lot of these, I got a notice from the federal courts that I got some sort of designation. I was in the top 10% of copyright litigators last year. It's because copyright law is being weaponized by two different groups. One group is often called or labeled copyright trolls. The other is by people on the political left who are weaponizing it to go after their adversaries in the media and the press. And so Alex Jones and InfoWars have been a constant target of weaponization of copyright lawsuits. So I represented them in certain cases, represented other people in other cases. And it's really sort of exploded in the last couple of years. And the copyright trolls come from a different group, which is that an interesting guy, actually, a lawyer in New York who's often accused of being a copyright troll, but I actually found him to be a relatively reasonable lawyer compared to many of them, is that because of the modern web, everybody uses photos in particular and often recirculates those photos. He was a photographer before he goes to law school. Goes to law school and he's like, wow, there's a lot of potential here in these copyright cases. So he signs up a bunch of his photographer buddies, and he figured out, rather than write a letter to somebody and say, hey, I want my photographer's fee for $250, I'll just file suit. And then I can probably get $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, something like that. And I think he filed something like 300 federal lawsuits last year. So I mean, it's that. And so he has a bunch of people going after him because of this, but it's technically what the law is. Now the question is whether it's getting disproportionate. So that's the copyright troll category, quote unquote. The other category are the people that are weaponizing it. And what it is, they just look at everything you've ever written, every photo you've ever printed, every video you've ever broadcast, and look to whether they can make a copyright claim. And some of these groups are politically motivated, not even lawyers. There's these quasi-lawyers that have opened up everywhere that represent photographers and other people, and they send you notices. I got one on my own website. I printed an article that had a photo in it from another website that was linked to that website, and they're like, well, we're going to have to sue unless you pay us. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's not got – that was a couple of years ago, but that's when I woke up to how bad it was, started doing that kind of representation because I dug into the law for my own benefit, had done it back when I was a kid lawyer. And so gotten some law school award for intellectual property and all that jazz. So it was an area that came natural to me. I also had a client maybe once who, let's just say they had a creative view. Their wife was from Vietnam and she had a creative view of copyrights. Let's put it that way. On a mass scale too. Wow. That was something. But so that dynamic led me to understand all the intricacies of the law. For people to understand that there's the formalities of the law, but the policy behind the copyright law is about protecting creativity and not having someone steal and get profit from your creativity. It's the purpose of the law is not to prevent or punish creativity or to give you like a patent on your idea. It's not like a drug. It's not like a design. So copyright law is much lower protection than patent protection because the policy they're protecting is creativity. And so that's why there's a broad action for what's called fair use. So if you, it's also, there's doctrines like abandonment. So like that came up in the Pepe case and the InfoWars case, whether or not they had abandoned the copyright because they'd given it to other people, that kind of thing. And so you can abandon it by just letting a lot of other people use it. But fair use is we want to protect creativity. So in memes in particular, they were the perfect group. Now, you've commented a lot, to give you how broad fair use is, you've commented a lot on Sargon of Akkad's case. And there, he just took her video and put it up. And he did nothing else to it. And yet the court said that was so obvious fair use that it was frivolous basically to file the suit, dismissed it right out of the gate, and now is going to issue attorney's fees so that Sargon's going to get to collect from her. So what's been happening, it's been happening on YouTube a lot, Twitter more and more, Facebook more and more. There are these trolls. This is different than the copyright trolls that are lawyers. These are just regular trolls that look for their political adversaries, and they send in bogus strikes. The other thing that's happening is a bunch of film companies and other big institutions have created algorithms to monitor, because this happened to me. I put up a video and I was just curious how it was going. So like on my own little Barnes Law YouTube, real small, just did it to sort of test things out, to preserve things as an archive, and put up one of the shows that the American Countdown podcast show that I do. I just put some of it up on YouTube, and I've got like 4 copyright strike notices. They're not full strike, but I was like, oh, so this is how this is working. And they would be like, hey, it was clearly just algorithmic driven. Because one time I got a strike for a video I never showed. I just talked about it. And I was like, oh, so the algorithm is audio driven. It's not even written driven. They're like, hey, you showed a news episode from Vice. I was like, no, I didn't. I talked about the episode from Vice because I know how Vice reacts to things, to copyright issues. So the background is that's all fair use. If you're commenting on it, if you're criticizing it, and definitely if you're creating it for a new project, new purpose, which is all of what memes are. Memes are completely taking something and applying them for a new purpose, new policy. They're not stealing from someone else's. They're not stealing the profit from someone else's creation. They're recreating something else, just using their original material. So it's like Picasso. The Picasso's paintings are his own, even if he's borrowing from other images he's seen and witnessed to create his own. So with Carpe Donktum, and in the law, now it hasn't been well enforced by the courts, but in the law, bogus DMCA takedown orders are grounds for countersuit and are grounds for getting attorney's fees. And I'll be very surprised if they ever go forward with that lawsuit against Carpe Donktum, because it's a bogus lawsuit, in my view, a frivolous lawsuit. The lawyer said a lot of other dumb stuff in there too, which told me the lawyer was not seriously contemplating suit, or really was not that well versed in copyright law. It was my take from it. But what Twitter should know is they know that they are increasingly used. In fact, there's now, I think, a Wikipedia term for it, copy fraud. So that these are bogus copyright strike claims. They're obvious because, in fact, they're trying to expand the legal protection so that it's more and more clear that if you issue in fact, the Ninth Circuit decision made it part of the law that said it's your duty to make sure that fair use is not a defense before you can issue a takedown notice. And if you issue a takedown notice without doing that due diligence, then, and in fact, there was fair use, then you have to pay the other side's attorney's fees because they're tired of the abuse of this. And it's happening regularly, and Carpe Donktum's the latest victim, and Twitter is co-complicit in it by accepting what they know to be completely bogus copyright strikes. Now, I think maybe down the road, Twitter could maybe be sued as a co-conspirator for participating with the benefit of sort of these, now in this case, a smaller operator, but most of the times they're protecting big movie companies and other people like that. Same with YouTube, same with Google. Google's completely protected because their image search is considered not copyright protected. But if someone else uses an image from Google Images, they can be sued. So they've been given all these special protections, and now they're abusing that special protection to go after what they know to be bogus copyright claims. So that's the background of what's taking place. But it's the new area of law that's been weaponized for politicized purposes, and it's being used by non-lawyers and lawyers alike with targeting people that they don't like politically. Because what Carpe Donktum did was complete fair use. It's the classic definition of fair use.
It's the the one criteria that I tend to discuss over and over again is what effect it has on the original market for the video. And the only argument that I can see in Carpe Donktum, who basically used throughout his meme, he used the entirety of the original video to the point where the video licensing agency would no longer have to license that video to the person who wanted, who made the use of it. So there's that argument that what Carpe Donktum did basically made it meaningless to actually license the video from the agency that's licensing the video. Whereas in this other lawsuit, MXR Plays, these reaction videos where they just play the video and then react, then there's an argument as to whether or not they're doing anything transformative.
But the key there is it's satire. So every satire would be a copyright violation if by the fact that you made something satirical or comedic allowed you to bring a copyright suit. It's just classic fair use. The other aspect was they're trying to claim like privacy for the kids. When you take a video and you put it out in public, there is no privacy. Not only that, if your kids are out in public, there is no privacy protection. You have to have a reasonable expectation of privacy in order to ever bring that kind of claim. And generally, if you're out in public, if you yourself post the video, it's not private. Well, especially this video is being licensed through, incidentally, the same licensing agency that had the issue with MXR Plays. And from what I understand, I think they took action after the father of one of the kids objected to the political use of it because the father was quite clearly on the opposite spectrum of the political spectrum from what it was being used for. And it reeks of political targeting, because I hear a kid coming downstairs, which makes no sense because it's too late for a kid to be coming downstairs, but there might be a kid coming down. So anyways, on that note, so the way it happens now, he posts the video, the copyright holder or whoever's licensing the video says, we issue the DMCA takedown notice, or do they not even have to do it? We don't know the full procedure. They don't have to do that, but usually they make a copyright claim. Sometimes it's a full DMCA takedown notice. Sometimes it's just, hey, this is copyright material. They tell Twitter, whoever that. So it was after the president retweeted it that they issued that. And then they later on came up with their later legal threat that they were going to say it was misappropriation without consent or authorization, which is a bogus claim too. And the thing there is, if you don't like it politically, which is the whole point and purpose of the copyright fair use protection, is to allow such political commentary to take place with video materials or other artistic materials that are out there. Simply make your own. I mean, that's the answer. Be creative, and you don't like that politics being used with your kid. Well, use it for your own politics if you want. You can use it for whatever purpose you want. This was a lawfare gone wrong again, and Twitter using its political platform power to target people on the right that are particularly effective. Carpe Donktum is by far the most effective meme maker in the country to basically try to intimidate others from also using memes. I remember 2016, you could go on YouTube and you had the best Trump memes ever. You had some good other memes, but like during the Trump primaries, they even, they would take a Batman movie and they would have Ted Cruz's head on one person and Rubio's head on another. I mean, it was great fun. And it's been ruined by these fake copyright claims, copy fraud claims by big companies in complicity with big tech. But now, but from the procedural standpoint, though, could Carpe Donktum not file a counter notice to the DMCA takedown notice, and then he would have to be sued within 10 days of having filed the DMCA counter notice? Yes, and my view of the law, even though they haven't always interpreted it this way, is that he's entitled to bring his own claim for copy fraud. Because that's what took place here. Yeah, but in the meantime, though, he's still banned. But my understanding, though, was that he would file a counterclaim. Whoever claimed the copyright would have 10 days to sue, and if they didn't sue, then Twitter would have to reinstate the video. Is that an inaccurate understanding? Twitter still wouldn't have to put it back up. So Twitter can still do what they want to do because they can do it regardless of copyright law. So they would no longer have as a basis copyright law as an objection, but Twitter can still remove anything they want anytime they want currently. The law is not limiting them, practically speaking. So copyright law would not compel them to do so, but and they wouldn't have the excuse of copyright law, but but Twitter itself can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants right now, pretty much. And so there would be no claim against Twitter for
what claim could exist against Twitter?
My theory is to try to pursue some of these folks on the grounds that it's conspiracy and collusion to engage in copy fraud, kind of like the allegations in the city of Seattle.